Whoever's listening, this is my first case file in my return to detective work. I don't know how long it's been since I've hung up my coat and packed away my gear. Feels like a lifetime. Or maybe just yesterday. Time has a funny way of slipping through your fingers when all you see is the bottom of a whiskey glass. But today was different. Something brought me back. Call it fate. Call it curiosity. Hell, you could even call it stupidity. Because I didn't think I still had the guts to crack a case. But this one was simple. A victim, a killer, and a trail just clear enough for me to follow. Like a story, just written for me. This recording is the process. Every lead, every question, and every shadow brought to light. And maybe, just maybe, a piece of myself I'm trying to find. Every morning starts the same. The cold air biting at my skin. My eyes half shut, and the bottle on my table already staring me down like it knows me better than I know myself. The name's Dean McQueen. Not like it matters. Not in a city like Grimwell. I used to believe I could make a difference. Donned a badge to make things better. But this place doesn't change. It changes you. It grinds you down until you're just a shadow of who you used to be. The phone rings. No voice, no words. A note slipped under the door. Find Laila Bryant. Don't recognize the name, but an ominous phone call and a note slipped under the door makes me a bit curious. Either way, with a name should be an address. Tanana Terrace. The door was locked, but luckily there was a spare key.
Let's cut the small talk. You got pep. I like that. They told me that was so.
There she was, sprawled on the floor, face down in her own blood. A woman like her didn't deserve this. But this city had a way of chewing people up and spitting out corpses, and I'm just a janitor cleaning up the mess. The time of death was between 11:45 p.m. to 1 a.m. The blood coming from the bullet holes in her chest. A low caliber, perhaps from an 8mm. Pretty common weapon around here. Nothing special about it, but everyone's got one because it gets the job done. Not exactly respectful, lifting prints off a fresh corpse, or rummaging through their pockets. But respect doesn't solve cases. The 8mm ammo cartridges, matching the wounds on the victim. Laila Bryant, HR Administrator for Cotton and Associates. An honest living, more than I can say so for myself. Her wallet. A good start. The ID is good for her name. The cash was good for me. Now I had to search the kitchen for more clues. I rummaged through the trash and found something that might be useful. A note pinned on the fridge. Tonight, you need a piece, and a password for a tool company. Nothing weird about that. It was time to search the house for clues. I scanned for more prints to see who's been around the kitchen. No surprise, it was just her. But that doesn't sit right with me. If there were no prints, how could she have been shot at such a close range? Maybe, if I check the front door, I'll get a better look at what happened. Could be the real first lead on who slipped in and out of here. All the prints on the front door belong to Laila. Interesting. How can someone enter a home and kill a person without leaving a trace? I moved into her bedroom and found a safe. I found a second set of prints along the door, leading from the top to the bottom. Maybe whoever did this was trying to steal something valuable. Money or information. I needed to see what was inside for myself. Luckily, I found the code to the safe earlier. I entered the code and opened the safe. To my surprise, there was nothing but syringes. Not even a bit of cash for me to swipe. There was nothing worth taking, unless the killer already did. Suddenly, the enforcers were making their way through the door. Someone must have called them after hearing those initial gunshots. This meant it was time for me to make my escape before the murder was pinned on me. I made my way to the closest vent in the bathroom. While crawling through the vents, I remembered the receipt from the trash. Wall Street Diner. That was my first order of business. Now, I had to make my way out. After aimlessly moving through the dark, I found an exit to a hallway. Wall Street Diner. A crumpled paper with words scribbled hastily. Go to this, Laila. You'll feel better for it. Tell them Ethan Taylor sent you. Finally, another name. Ethan Taylor. This person seemed to have cared for her. Since they're my only lead, I'd have to figure out who they are and if their prints match the ones on the safe. Before I embarked to find Ethan, I questioned the employees in the diner. But as usual, everyone's too busy wrapped up in their own to worry about others. I guess this was the only stop Laila's been for now. And Ethan was my next lead. Ethan Taylor. He wasn't hard to find. A nervous guy, jumpy eyes, and a sweat-soaked collar. He swore he didn't know anything, and his story matched his prints. Clean. Still, something about his voice made me think he knew more than what he was letting on. But I wasn't here to dig through every skeleton in his closet. I asked all the usual questions. His identity, whether he knew the victim, and if I could have some of his prints. Collecting his prints were surprisingly easier than I thought. But it turns out, his cooperation meant he wasn't our guy. Perhaps I'll find more information at her work. Cotton and Associates. I arrived at Cotton and Associates' office building. Fortunately, nobody was working at the time. Unfortunately, that meant the office was closed and I had to find a way in. I didn't see the need to waste my lockpicks, so I stuck with what I was most familiar with. After crawling through the vents like a rat chasing crumbs, I finally dropped into a room next to the office. The dust settled as my shoes hit the floor. There was no more time to waste. I searched around for the passcode out of here and scanned for prints. Lucky for me, nobody in town remembers their passwords. First, I unlocked the safe to find two big, beautiful chunks of temptation, glinting in the dark like stars. I stuffed my face and emptied my pockets, and told myself it was just another step in the job before swiping them. Then, it was back to business. The office door swung open after I punched the code. But before slipping inside, I clocked the cameras, still on it, sweeping the room like vultures circling a meal. No time to waste. I'd have to move quick, quiet, and smart. The kitchen was my first stop. No cameras, no clues, just pocket change. I crept through the rest of the office by sticking to the shadows like a cockroach at a health inspection, hoping the cameras wouldn't notice the scuttle. I found a crumpled note that related to the one found previously pinned to her fridge, but with a new name. Kay Wilder. I sat down and logged into Layla's computer. I swept through her Vmail and the picture became clear. Someone was hunting our victim, and our friend, Ethan, knew about it. Layla was asking Ethan for help and even asked him to meet at Wall Street Diner. Digging deeper, I found another message tied to the Slate Tool Company and Kay Wilder, and suspicious didn't even begin to cover it. A secret location, a password, and the kind of casual mention of weapons that make you wonder if you stumbled into a spy thriller. This meant something was off. Way off. Layla was wading into a dark mess, and whatever this was, it reeked more than the booze in my breath. The Slate Tool Company was my next stop, followed by a closer look at Kay Wilder. If they were the architects of this disaster, it was time to see what kind of blueprints they were working off. Walking through the dank, dilapidated basement of a hotel, I found the Slate Tool Company. A shady character opened the door and revealed an arsenal of weapons hanging on the wall like a twisted collection of trophies. I gave the man the password, tried to sound like I knew what I was doing, like I wasn't already 3 steps behind. The man gave me his name, Martí Flores. Funny enough, he gave me his name when I asked, but anything else wasn't fair game. He wasn't in the mood for conversation. He clammed up faster than a church mouse and shut the door in my face like I was a Mormon asking about his religion. I guess my questions would be best answered with Kennard Wilder. I arrived at Kennard Wilder's apartment, and there it was, matching prints to the ones I previously found on the victim's safe. My prime suspect was within reach, but I had no key, and no patience for wasting time crawling through a cold maze of ventilation shafts, so I picked my way in. The apartment was quiet, looked like nobody was home. This gave me the breathing room I needed to be thorough. I started with the kitchen, checked the cabinets, and went through the trash bin. But if Wilder was hiding something, it wasn't going to be in the kitchen. Assuming so, I decided to search the bedroom instead, and what could only be described as the most genius spot I've ever seen. I find Wilder's passcode tucked next to the computer behind a desk fan. Before opening the computer, I dug through the closet to find some skeletons, and turned out Wilder had a partner, Ladris Hyde, male. And that's when I realized Wilder was also a woman, but it didn't really matter all that much. Killing doesn't have a gender requirement. People lie, sin, kill, no matter who they are. Then I logged into her computer using the password that was so well hidden, and everything fell into place. The most recent email was a hit, targeted at Layla's coworker and my first suspect, Ethan Taylor. His address right underneath, sent by an unknown sender. The next email was a payment, a sync disk, likely connected to the hit on our victim. And a third email, well, that one was a real kicker. The termination details for Miss Laila Bryant. A neat little package of cold, hard facts, each one pointing to a warm, dead body. A damn shame she never realized the person she was up against wasn't some low-life street thug. With the puzzle almost complete, I was still missing a few pieces. I needed the murder weapon and Wilder's prints to make the link to the crime. So, I kept searching the bedroom, hoping to find something that would tie it all together. Turns out, Wilder wasn't exactly new to the game. No surprise, she was a veteran of crime, and getting paid for it. Maybe I was on the wrong side of the business. Suddenly, my luck couldn't have run out at a worse time. Wilder walked through the front door. I couldn't confront her just yet. She could have been carrying the same weapon she used on Layla. Hell, she could have just finished dealing with Ethan Taylor for all I knew. I swear, my eyes couldn't believe what they were seeing. I was tucked in the corner, trying not to breathe, when she blinked in and out of existence, like some kind of damn nightcrawler with teleportation powers. That's when it hit me. There were no prints leading in or out of Layla's apartment. None. Only on the safe, because of course, she couldn't teleport into a small metal box. As it turned out, my luck hadn't run out just yet. This was my chance to escape, but I was wrong, and I never found a key. Eventually, I made it out, but I still didn't have what I needed. By the time I checked my watch, it was 7:08 a.m. I figured enough time had passed, so I tried to sneak back in. This was a big mistake. Wilder was so close she could have counted the flecks on my beautiful brown eyes. I spun around and bolted down the stairs, quick enough to escape her gaze, but slow enough to curse my own stupidity down the way. After being gone for so long, I guess Wilder forgot who had been at her door. She still opened it but refused to answer any of my questions, keeping her guard up. While we were talking, her partner walked in, slammed the door behind him, and started yelling. Tension in the room spiked like a bomb about to go off. It sounded like they were having some relationship problems. I couldn't make it out exactly what they were arguing about, but Wilder's tone said it all. Dismissive and deflective. She didn't even want to talk to her own partner. The door was locked behind them as they walked away, leaving me with no choice. There was no way I was walking through that door again, not with them on the other side. That left my last option, the cold metal labyrinth of a ventilation system. Crawling through the vents was bad enough, but the one I found didn't even lead to the right apartment. So I climbed back up a few floors, hoping to find a way down that didn't involve breaking my neck. I'd been crawling for so long I was starting to freeze, colder than a corpse in a meat locker. After stumbling into the wrong apartment and bruising my knees in the process, I finally found the right one. I popped out of the vent and slipped off the kitchen counter. I snuck into the bedroom and the golden goose was asleep. I got the prints I needed. Now I needed the weapon. Rummaging through her desk, I found her business card. Executive Assistant to Mr. Sharp of Starch Kola. Figures. A corporate giant like Starch Kola would have its dirty fingers all over a mess like this. To them, murder's just another product. A package with a shiny label and best served cold. Back in the kitchen, of all places, was the gun. Sitting in the most obvious spot imaginable. Right above the cabinet. It was sitting cozy right next to the vent I'd crawled through earlier. With all the evidence collected, the killer, the prints, the address, and the weapon, was finally ready to make the arrest. She woke up in cuffs. Groggy, confused, and angry. I told her she was under arrest. And out of curiosity, I asked why she did it. Her answer? Soulless and vile. The kind of response that makes you wonder if there's any trace of human being left in her. After that, I knew my work was done. It was time to close the case. I submitted my forms to City Hall and waited for the clerk's response. Case closed. An innocent woman gunned down in her own home. Murdered by contract killer, tangled in a web of lies spun by a corporate giant. Who was pulling the strings? Hell if I know. But one thing's certain, I'll be watching. From the shadows like a ghost in a forgotten corner. Because in Grimwell, there's no such thing as redemption or happy endings. Just answers that drag you to the bottom of a bottle or the wrong end of a barrel.